When you say Jesus died for all of us, everybody's of worth here.
Yep.
And so therefore, we've got to recognize legitimate differences. We've got to recognize the fact that we won't agree.
What the conservatives say is if you listen, then you are changing. Just because you're you're guilty by association.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say, how in the world can we change anything if we're not in the room?
Yeah.
On the other side, we also can't change what we believe.
Right.
Or change our stance.
Right.
Because we would lose respect if we didn't hold to our values, to our morals, to our ethics, to our truth. But we can do that in a way that Jesus did.
I am so excited about today's podcast because this is my pastor. This is my boss. Actually, I'm a little intimidated because I could get fired after this. but Justin Dailey, Pastor Justin Dailey of Action Church, is not only the lead pastor of one of the largest churches in Central Florida, but just has taught me so much. And I kind of look at him and wish I'd have been as smart as he is when I was his age. But one of the things that we're trying to do here is that we are trying to examine different traditions of faith and how they approach the election cycle. And you've already heard me interview somebody from a very liberal background, congregational, and that they're all about social justice. You've heard me interview people of different faith traditions. And so today, Pastor Justin is someone who not only comes from a more independent background. His pastor's Pastor Chris, and he'll tell you more about that. But we're also loosely affiliated with the Assemblies of God, and they have this great global perspective. They have one of the best missions programs and multiplying wonderful ministries around the world. So you have a mix here, and so let me just start. Thank you,
yes, sir,
Pastor Justin, for coming in, and I just want to start out with just kind of your background, how you were raised, what is your kind of training for ministry in all aspects, not just in the public square. Great. We'll get to that later. Great. But give us some background on you.
I want to thank you for the intro, and I'm never more humbled or overwhelmed when you call me your pastor. Dr. Hunter, the wisest, most integrous leader in Central Florida, so always overwhelmingly humbled. Grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. Church kid. I was in church at 5 weeks old. Good Southern Baptist boy. Got all the pins, 100% attendance, Bible drill, all that. Raised in a great home. Went to a PCA, Presbyterian high school, and then really committed my life again at 19 at Pastor Chris Hodges at Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. So I say I'm the most jacked up theological pastor in Central Florida, maybe the country. I can be Arminian, I can be Calvinist, and I can pray for healing all in the same thing. And so it really did bring a great foundation and well-roundedness to my perspective, to my understanding, to my conversations, to be able to understand where not just non-Christians in the world, but even just our Christians and denominations and perspective. And so, grew up in a great family, great church, and had the privilege to be here in Central Florida for the last 13 years, hopefully helping a lot of people.
Well, you are helping a lot of people, and one of the ways you're helping them is in a very radicalized and polarized world. I see you kind of hold this common sense, faithful, faith-based view on the world, which helps us negotiate all kinds of crises, both personal and spiritual and cultural and political. And so let me start with this question. you're the pastor of a large congregation, you know when you walk in and you give any opinion, you're going to make, at least 100 people really mad. If you say anything.
Yes.
And I knew that too when I was a pastor of a large congregation. But yet you can't just try to water down everything and satisfy, and that'll make everybody else mad.
Yes. So
when it comes to facing some of the really hard issues that we have to face, especially in the upcoming election cycle, not only with candidates who are just throwing mud all over each other and just saying everybody that doesn't agree with me is just a traitor and all that kind of stuff. What do you hold in your mind when you come to speak on issues that impact everybody, not just Christians, but impact everybody? How do you hold that balance, knowing, A, I'm going to make some people mad, because for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, and B, how can I only make those people mad who are going to get mad anyhow?
Right. Yeah, I think I wrestle with it a lot more when I was younger, just trying to grow the church, reach the community. It always hurts when people leave. I mean, we got into the ministry. I got in this to help people. I mean, I've given my life to serve people in different capacities. But when I was going through, it was probably election cycle, COVID season, the racial tensions. We took a lot of heat for what we said and what we didn't say. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you can't say enough. And if you say too little, if somebody's leaving. And they're leaving loudly. And I really just got what I believe was a word from the Lord, and it's common sense, is we're called to reach everybody. Our mission statement at Action Church is to reach people where they are, connect them to everything God has for their life. But God and we welcome everybody. However, I made a decision about 6 or 7 years ago. We're probably not going to be the place for the furthest 10% right and the furthest 10% left. And so for us, we're going to try and meet the common sense people, meet the needs of that 80%. The far 10 and the far 10 are welcome. And we will sit down, we will have a conversation. But when my messaging, my content, my perspective, and my approach, I'm never going to win them over. Only, and for our context, we believe only the Holy Spirit can change their minds. I'm not going to change their mind. So I'm not going to fight to.
Good. Well, and as a pastor, you're trying always to equip your people to think when they're not in church. That's the goal of training for spiritual maturity. You want people to be able to think on their own and not just say, okay, I can't remember a sermon I heard on this, so I don't know what to do. What are some of the principles that you want people to hold in mind? Not candidates, not issues, but just principles that when they're facing, okay, who do I vote for, or how do I vote, you want them to have this in their minds.
I think the perspective is that Jesus died for all people, and what happens in election cycle is we politicize things and we politicize people. And so I want them to have the heart or the perspective that even the person across the aisle, even the person that they may disagree with on an issue, a candidate they may disagree with, that's still somebody that we believe God sent Jesus to die for. And I think as Christians, we begin to become hateful and angry and tear down the person. So I'd like to challenge the people that are listening to me or following me to prioritize eternity, that we are in a kingdom first, a democracy second. And so our citizenship in heaven always supersedes our citizenship in earth. I think that's a great filter. And then I think we just go to the Bible. We say a lot at Action Church, like, I don't have opinions when God's word is spoken clearly. And I try and do that in a way that's life-giving, that's not opinionated, that's not polarizing. But the Bible describes itself as a sword that divides truth from falsehood, lies from things that are correct. I try and bring the Word of God, bring truth to the principle, to the issue, and not minimize or tear down the person that holds that issue.
That's great.
Or holds that opinion.
Well, you're hitting on something really that's central to the pledge, people want to be nice, they want to have harmony, but the pledge is built for division. I mean, and how do you treat people with respect when you profoundly disagree with them?
Yeah.
And I got to confess, I've had such a struggle because, I grew up thinking I'm surrounded by morons. I'm not sure how I got here.
Yeah.
They're all idiots,
Yeah.
And so I just had this kind of, arrogant, cynic, and I really, as I matured spiritually, I knew that's something I've got to.
Yeah.
I mean, I still, it comes back to me quite often, but
you think it, you don't say it anymore.
Yeah, I did. Exactly.
Right. That's wisdom. You can't get rid of the thought. Yeah,
it's my first response. But when you say Jesus died for all of us, everybody's of worth here,
Yep.
And so therefore, we've got to recognize legitimate differences. We've got to recognize the fact that we won't agree, but still we mature when we can. It used to be said that Republicans and Democrats could disagree, vote against each other, and then go out for a beer afterwards.
Right.
And it just doesn't seem like
It's not
that's
like that
happening anymore.
Right.
What for people of faith can we do as a practice to restore that basic respect even when we disagree?
Yeah. I think what I've learned from you and I've seen is change comes out of the context of relationships. And if we want to be the change in the world, if we want to go into the places that we believe are hurting or far from God, we're not invited into those conversations if we're not in relationship.
Yeah.
And we're not in relationship if we're not kind, if we're not compassionate, if we don't listen.
Yeah.
I think what the conservatives say is if you listen, then you are changing. Just because you're in there, you're guilty by association.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say, how in the world can we change anything if we're not in the room?
Yeah.
On the other side, we also can't change what we believe
Right.
or change our stance.
Right.
Because we would lose respect if we didn't hold to our values, to our morals, to our ethics, to our truth. But we can do that in a way that Jesus did. I mean, he sat with people he disagreed with.
Yeah.
He went to dinner. In the Bible, it was covenant to go to someone's home. And he was found in their home. And he was criticized. He was ridiculed. Borderline crucified for his association with sinners. And I get that's a churchy term. We've all sinned, by the way. So I'm not saying the people disagree with me are the sinners. We're all sinned. Yeah. But I think it's holding tight to our values, tight to our morals, but also prioritizing that relationship with everyone. What happens, what I see, is we get in really, really small circles that look like us, think like us, talk like us. Yeah. And we get in an algorithm online where we're fed, and we're only fed one side of the story.
Yeah.
So then we become cultic with even our politics because we don't even know the other side. We're so indoctrinated with one side of the truth.
That's absolutely true. One of the best things I've ever heard you say was, we get mad at people just because they sin differently than we do.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's such a money line. But you mentioned relationships, and again, confession here. My generation is not great at relationships. I mean, we had close relationships with family and extended family, and maybe a few of our neighbors and people we worked with. But we operated, the boomer generation operated, especially in institutional religion, kind of on a performative basis. Yeah. And it was all about the ceremony and all about the hierarchy and the theological beliefs and so on and so forth. Your generation, and you're 41 right now.
41, yes, sir.
Gosh, unbelievable. I can't remember 41. But your generation really is so much better at doing things by relationship, which is, I think, part of the solution to the fix we're in right now.
Yep.
Because you're right. This isn't going to be fixed by finally coming to a solution where everybody's going to agree.
Right.
It's got to be about relationship. What is it about your generation that does relationships better?
I don't know. I think you would maybe have more insight. I think the pendulum always swings, and so, like, I grew up in a great home. I had great parents, great grandparents, but I watched their relationships even at a young age. They were different. Like, there's just something evolving, I think, in society, that need. I think that's where social media came from. There's a need to be connected. I looked at my grandparents, and they loved my parents, but they weren't super close. There wasn't a lot of hugs, wasn't a lot of I love you.
Yeah.
And then my parents did a little bit better. There was a lot of I love you and hugs, but there wasn't as much friendship or connection time-wise. Always there, always intentional.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I saw as a kid, I think I'd want to take that a step further. Yeah. So I think it's a growth in humanity. I think it's also being utilized by culture and society to tear us down, because that need for connectedness online and digital is producing anxiety and insecurity and comparison, all those things. But I think the healthy side of that is I think we long for it because it's been passed down, and I think the next generation even more so wants to hang out more, wants to connect more, they want the conversation.
Yeah.
We talk about our young people at Action, the students, the middle school, high school, and college students. They love our services. They love our gatherings. But if I ask them what they love about our conferences or about our events, it's the small group time. It's the time before and after. The show is no longer as impressive as it used to be. So institutional religion was the sacrament or the show or the ritual.
Yeah.
Now it's the relationship.
Yeah.
They want the connectedness to another individual. Is this real?
Yeah.
Is this authentic? Can I live this out? I do think that is a strength of this generation.
It really
could
is.
be a strength.
It really is. And by the way, I have a huge not only respect but love for your mom and dad. They're wonderful people.
The best.
But there is you're exactly right. There's such a generational difference, and we did what we did. I mean, we were who we were. We did the best we could. But just as you're speaking, I'm reminded of the difference between when I used to do sermons and the way you do sermons now. I mean, you gather people in a room and say, give me your ideas.
Yep.
And I don't know if anybody can put together as great a message out of all of that cacophony of just ideas popping up, and you just up there writing on the board. And for me, it was just go sit on the side of the mountain and wait till the Lord tells you what to say.
That's because you're a lot more educated than me. I need the start. I need that little Kickstarter. Yeah, I need a head start.
But the great thing about this is, to me, it's a metaphor for how the world ought to work.
Yeah.
Because we grow from listening to people's opinions and what they're thinking. And if we could mature enough even to grow from the people who think very differently or who think opposite of what we do.
Yeah.
Because, God can speak through, if God can speak through a donkey, Balaam's ass. Can I say that in a podcast? I guess I can. I just said it.
It's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
King James, look it up.
King James, that's right. In the real Bible.
Yeah.
But he can speak through, and that's why I'm so concerned that we provide some leadership for people, not just tolerating people who think differently, but actually learning from people who think differently than we do. You just had a series on lessons from the pit.
Yep.
And when things look like they're really going bad, God brings some really good stuff out of there. What would you say to people who are so discouraged when they're looking at the country right now, and they're just saying, things have never been this bad. I've never seen anything like this. I think we're going down the tubes. I'm getting so discouraged. I'm a little scared. No, I'm a lot scared. What would you say to people?
To the Christian, I would say it's been like this before. You read the Old Testament, you read the New Testament, you read what happened in Babylon and Assyria, you read the temple being destroyed, you read the early church persecuted in Rome. So when we say, Christians have never had it so tough, like I would love for you to go interview an early church Jewish believer in Rome.
Yes.
So let's take the blinders off to you got hated on Facebook, or your persecution is laughable in biblical context.
Yeah.
I would also encourage somebody that's just curious or heavy or maybe concerned about the state of our country and the world. I mean, that's why our hope is in Jesus.
Yeah.
I would be concerned too if this was the end.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not here today to preach the gospel,
but
later is longer, and I would say the only hope we have is eternity, and for good people, we believe Christians, but good people to operate with kindness, compassion, respect. And that goes back to, it comes from listening. Like, you don't even know the answer if you're not listening. It's a very insecure leader, pastor, community leader that's not willing to listen. How in the world could I solve the problems if I'm not aware of them?
Yeah.
If I don't understand why you believe what you believe,
Right.
then I don't understand who you are at the core.
Yeah.
So therefore, we cannot go anywhere together on a journey to make this better.
Yeah.
And I think what's scary, and I don't have the solution, is that we will not heal if we continue to divide.
That's right.
The country.
That's right.
Now, we know there's a division eternally in our belief system and our religion, what we believe, that Jesus is the only way to heaven. Yeah. But if you're just asking the context of the country, it's foundational morality, it's integrity, it's consistency, it's safety, and those things are fought for. We can come together and fight for a better human condition while we still fight for what we know is our ultimate goal, for kingdom principles, for eternity to be in the life of everybody.
That's a good word. That's a good word. Let me ask you this, because we both understand that we have a dual citizenship.
Yep.
We're citizens of heaven. We're also citizens here, in a lesser sense, in another realm. What obligation do you think Christians have to make this world better, and not just to learn more and more about Scripture so they can be, personally more and more aligned with, God?
I mean, I think it's our great commandment. I mean, it's the Great Commission. Love God, love your neighbor, and go.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how I live my life. I love God, love everybody He puts in my path, and the Great Commission, go and do something about it. And so if God was done with us when we got saved, if we were just created for heaven, then He would take us at the moment of salvation. He leaves us here to make a difference. Yeah. And we should make a difference, what we say at Action Church, wherever we are. Yeah. So we should make a difference in our schools. We should make a difference in our community. We should make a difference with our unsheltered, with those with less, with those who are struggling with addiction. We should make this world better. Yeah. Christians should be known for making their communities better, for going, not just gathering. Yeah. If Action Church is just known for gathering a large congregation, we've missed the whole point. Yeah. Pastor said one time, churches shouldn't be known for their seating capacity, but their sending capacity.
Correct.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that even goes into politics. Yeah. And I think that's where it gets a little tricky. But God's ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Almost all leadership books written in America are based somewhat from King Solomon and Proverbs. Yeah. I mean, that is the foundational leadership principles of this earth. And I do think the path to restoring our country is for faith-filled, morally upright men and women to stand for justice, to stand for life, to stand for those things. I do think that we have to make that stand, but we can do it in a way that is arm in arm and not, fists raised. I think that's where our side, the Christian side, has gotten a little angry and not inviting. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard somebody once say
we weaponize those. I think what I would say, just to wrap it up, we weaponize those issues instead of teaching, coming around the table. We don't just stand up for them, we weaponize them. And I think we need to stand for them and stand strongly and stand clearly on those. Yeah. But I think the way in which we don't fight people, we fight issues. We don't fight against, we fight for what we believe. And I just think that changed our posture. It changes the tone of relationships.
Well, and when we weaponize them, we're driving away the very people that we want to understand what we stand for. Right. I was with somebody this week who just I told him that I was a pastor, and he just froze, and he just couldn't even talk because he had been so mistreated spiritually. I mean, just such a heavy condemnation that now he was afraid to be around anybody who believed,
Right.
And never associated those people with grace or with the ability to have mercy or ability to try to understand or anything like that. So I think you're absolutely right. I do think that again, as you're talking, I'm hearing this this great outreach here for people who can benefit everybody and not just their own kind. I know Action Church is involved in so many ways in the community. We're connected with every school in Seminole County. We cooperate with or are in cooperation with, I can't remember, Tina Camesso told me how many ministries that we are cooperating with all over the state of Florida.
It's hundreds.
It just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so all of that is super important, but it's also super important to go into the public square that has been called secular. No square is secular. I mean, whenever you have believers, it's not a secular space for crying out loud. It's just, we don't leave anything behind.
Right.
But to be able to go into that space and to be able to vote on policy or vote on issues and candidates, when you personally are thinking of, okay, this candidate, that candidate, this issue, that issue, what's running in your mind? I mean, how much of what they say and their stance is part of what you go for or against? How much of their personality is a part of how you react to them? Good. Tell us about you.
Personality would be 0.
Okay.
What they say would be less than 0.
Okay.
Because I don't believe them. I love a lot of them, but they're trying to get elected.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the guy selling you something. They're not going to tell you the bad thing. They're not going to tell you the side effects.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be educated. I think that's one of the biggest problems that I see from my generation. We talked about the good things of relationship.
Yeah.
We are very uneducated in our American history.
Yeah.
We are very uneducated in our candidates. We're very uneducated in the issues. We'll get one TikTok, one newsreel, and we'll be like, this is what I believe about this.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's issues, it's voting record, it's who they're connected to in relationships. But I'm pretty I'm an issues voter. I mean, we're for justice, standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves, protecting the innocent, protecting our freedom, be in a place where the gospel thrives, has been spread more in the last 250 years with America being in power than any other time. And so America being strong is really important for gospel expansion. And so I'm a big America guy. I love our country. I love Jesus more. But it's issues for me because those are facts. And we both know you can't build a life off of opinions or feelings. They're great indicators, but they're terrible decision makers.
Yes.
And oftentimes we get in our emotions when we vote. And I would say look at the issues, the records, and maybe even the reputation or the character of the individual over a lifetime or as long as they've been in public, way more than what the news says, what your algorithm says, or even what they say. And I'm not saying there's bad politicians. Well, there are bad politicians, but I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm not saying they're lying. I'm saying they're selling. The same way that you and I would if we were trying to sell a product.
Absolutely.
They're selling themselves.
Well, and we talked yesterday in the sermon brainstorming thing. This is just fresh about how AI has lessened our capability of actually thinking things through. There's a ready-made answer. There it is. And social media does the same thing. It stunts our capability of thinking because we do go. Somebody says something well, and we go, That's my opinion.
Yep.
And we're not doing the research that we should be doing.
Correct.
So and just as pastors, we want for people to mature.
Yes.
Intellectually, of course, spiritually, emotionally, and that requires work.
Right.
That relationships are work. Truth is work.
Yep.
And so, well, just broad-based question here. What signs of hope do you see for us going into the future, whether it be spiritually, culturally? I mean, what gives you hope?
For me, it's young people in our context, in our church, in our community, that are going on mission trips, that are serving on our Serve Saturdays, that are making a difference in their schools. The clubs we have, the Christian clubs we have in schools, the small groups we have in schools. I mean, seeing young people not just love Jesus, but love their neighbor, love the community.
Yeah.
And that's what gives me hope. And I wouldn't say I have hope in eternity. I have hope in Jesus. Hope in our country. It's glimmers because it is so divided.
Yeah.
It is so toxic and so ugly.
Mm-hmm.
But I see a generation coming up that wants to know the truth, and I think that's what I would be praying for, or trying to lead is like more common sense, more education, more research. Like, how can you save a country if you don't know the country?
Yeah.
How can you vote if you don't even know who you're voting for?
Yeah.
And so, but I do have hope because I see young people that love Jesus, love helping others, and love our country.
Yeah.
And so that's what gives me hope outside of the biblical context. As I see it. I see it in our church.
Yeah.
I see people serving and helping. And I think true compassion, true serving is helping somebody and expecting nothing in return. We have a lot of helping for mutual benefits.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to teach is like, no, you're not serving if you're expecting. That's transactional.
Yeah, exactly.
And loving people and serving people is not transactional. When I see that, it gives me hope.
Yeah. And ultimately, 'cause I've heard you say this many times, but our hope is in God.
Mm-hmm.
Our trust is in God. The reason that I can go to bed and sleep every night, I've never had a sleep problem. Even though I've got some real unrest, we deal with people's problems. It's really impossible not to take some of those on.
Yep.
But ultimately, we trust God.
Yeah.
He's got this.
Yep.
He's not surprised by anything. He's sovereign. The other day when we were in that staff meeting and somebody mentioned I've been in ministry for 56 years, or it was some sort of anniversary. My birthday was my birthday. That was it. And Pastor Tyler, who's one of the great interviewers of all time, came and said, "What would you sum up? What?" And I said, and I've thought about this since. My advice was keep going, because it was in the context of, I'm an old guy now, but I got to keep going. But what I should have said is trust God. That's the best thing we can do.
Yes, sir.
In all of these troubled times, because He's got this.
Yeah.
And if we're trusting Him, we're continually turning to Him.
It really is. It's the only thing that gets me through my worst days.
Yeah.
And I know you've walked through pain. I've walked through pain. I don't have another answer.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I didn't believe it, if I didn't study it, if I didn't think Christianity was the most scientifically accurate, historically accurate, all the documentation for me is there up here.
Yeah.
But just walking through my worst days, I wouldn't still be here.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a healthy husband and father
That's right.
and community leader without the Holy Spirit, without my relationship with God.
Yeah.
And so that, I know that sounds so cliche for a pastor,
Not at all.
but take out the theology, take out the education, just because I've experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it is, you asked me what the hope is, that is my only source of hope. I find glimmers in the world, but the source of my hope is only in the context of my relationship with Jesus.
Well, and I know that's true for you, Justin, and I so admire you for it because I know some of what you've been through, and that's really who you are. And I appreciate so much. Somebody once said, you can teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are.
That's good.
And that's why Action's growing like it is, and why I'm growing under your
you, sir.
leadership. So thank you, brother.
Yeah.
All right.
Love you so much.
Love you too, brother.